but make thee a channel for my timeless woes. My hidden presence, let thee, unknowing on, from thy beginning in earth's voiceless bosom, from thy beginning in earth's voiceless bosom, that is where Savitri starts his work. Since the beginning of the earth, whenever and wherever there was a possibility of divine manifestation, I was there. Since the beginning of the earth. From thy beginning in earth's voiceless bosom, through life and pain and time and will and death, through life and pain and time and will and death. How insistent he is, you see. Throughout the shocks and in the silences, along the mystic roads of space and time, to the experience which all nature hides. Who hunts and seizes me, my captive grows. This shalt thou henceforth learn from thy heartbeats. Now, who hunts and seizes me, Savitri is hunting him. Savitri is seizing him. Therefore, she shall henceforth learn from her heartbeats. My captive, this shall thou henceforth learn from thy heartbeat. Your heart will always tell me, heartbeat will always tell me that you have seized me, you have hunted me, you have seized me. Always. Forever. Love, O beautiful slave of God. Forever love, O beautiful slave of God. So this is the most famous line, you see. Love, of course, he is addressing to Savitri. Forever love. Who is she? Beautiful slave of God. Savitri is the slave of God. Savitri is given to carry out the will of the Supreme. Whatever he wants, she shall do. She shall accomplish that. Therefore, she is a slave. She is the executive power, and the executive power will work according to the will of the Supreme. Whatever he wills, she will carry it out. Therefore, she is a slave. And of course, she is beautiful because she is carrying out the will of the Lord. There cannot be anything more beautiful than that, to execute the will of the Lord. Therefore, she is beautiful. Oh, beautiful slave of God. Now, slave of God, slave is a word phrase which occurs repeatedly in a record of yoga. And Kali, she is described as Dasi. Dasi means slave. She is the slave. Kali is the slave of God, of the Supreme. She will execute, put into dynamism, into activity, whatever her Lord wants her to do. That is in the transcendental. But now this is being carried out in a mortal world by Savitri. Savitri has become that Kali on earth, that Dasi on earth, to execute, to carry out the will of the Lord in earth. The slave of God is a very, I think I got some examples here, but Krishna and Kali, record of yoga. There are a number of examples there. In fact, this occurs repeatedly. In fact, Shiva says in the record of yoga, Dasya Bhava, the mood, the state, the poise, the condition of being the slave. Dasya means of slavery. Bhava, the way of doing things in the will of the Lord, that is the Dasya Bhava. It is something different than surrender. to implicitly obey what is being told to you by the Supreme, that is the Dasya Bhava. O lasso of my rapturous widening noose, become my cord of universal love. So that noose, that lasso becomes something to pull you in love, universal love. You see. Universal love is a lasso now. You see. O lasso of my rapturous widening noose, become my cord of universal love. The spirit ensnared by thee, forced to delight of creation's oneness, sweet and fathomless. The spirit ensnared by thee, forced to delight of creation's oneness. So everywhere it is being emphasized, creation's oneness, which is sweet and fathomless, and compelled to embrace my myriad unities and all my endless form and divine soul. So everywhere it is divine, divine, divine. But divine in the sense of individuals with a distinct character, with something which is of a very definite nature of its own. Compelled to embrace my myriad unities and all my endless form and divine soul. O mind, grow full of eternal peace. O word, cry out the immortal litany. Build the golden tower, the flame child born. Now this whole passage, whole section 154, this is what the mother has recited. It is available in mother's voice, complete. Build the golden tower, the flame child born. Pardon me? Yes. Mother's is there. Is there. I think it is there on the site also, our site also. Not music. Her recitation only. Her recitation alone. O mind, grow full of eternal peace. She wanted peace, so yes, the peace is assured. O word, that is the dynamic creative power, the executive power, not creative, the executive power. Cry out the immortal litany. Build the golden tower, the flame child born. Litany. Series of invocations, each followed by unvarying response. Litany. Invocation after invocation with the response completely. Oh word, that is the invocation, incoming in answer. Cry out the immortal litany. And the response is there, repetition. Whatever you want. And in that process, because it is the word, the dynamic executive aspect of it, therefore build is the golden tower, the flame child born. Flame child, Agni Balaka, Agni Putra, Agni Balaka. Balaka means child, baby. Flame, of course, Agni Balaka. So the divine Agni has taken birth because of Savitri singing out that immortal litany. And there is the response to that. See. O mind, grow full of the eternal peace. O word, cry out the immortal litany. Build the golden tower, the flame child born. Build the golden tower. Well, there were attempts earlier to build a ladder which will reach the city of God. The biblical ladder of Jacob, which will go and reach the city of God, clouds above. There are some beautiful pictures also of that ladder. But the ladder didn't really rise that high enough. Now here is an assurance that ladder will be built in the form of tower. Now, golden tower. There is a kind of a reference to the unbuilt tower, Golden Tower of London. Of London. Unbuilt Golden Tower of London. Yes. Yeah. Unbuilt. That was not built, but now here it is built. Unbuilt Golden Tower of London. The idea was they wanted to construct a 1,000-foot tower. They had made complete engineering designs, everything was ready, and they would have executed any time, you see. All made of iron with gold plates, gold plated afterwards, and the tower would have gone up to 1,000 feet, about 305 meters height, you see, roughly. This was the proposal was, the idea was to celebrate the Reform Act of British Parliament in 1832. In 1832, they had passed a Reform Act of Parliament, Parliamentary Reform Act. Not the election of members of Parliament on the basis of boroughs, but on the basis of population. Each unit of population will send his representative to the Parliament. That was the Reform Act, Parliamentary Reform Act of 1832. And in order to celebrate this epochal event, one engineer, he took upon himself to design a tower of 1,000 feet, all gold. And they tried many times, but they did not build. Finally, of course, as you know, in 1889, what was built was the Eiffel Tower. See, it was a kind of an echo of what English people wanted to build. So, Eiffel, he built the tower in Paris in 1889. You see. Again, tall, huge, big one. But I don't know whether it is tall enough, 1,000 feet. This tower was, how much, any idea? No. I will have to check that. Yeah. So this Golden Tower was not built, although it was a great act of reformation in the parliamentary history of 1832. It remained undone. But now, Savitri has built that tower. And only when the tower is built does the birth of a flame child occur. The Agni Palaka comes into living being as a living being when the tall tower of 1,000 feet is built. O mind, grow full of the eternal peace. O world, cry out the immortal litany. So, repeated invocations are there, responses are there, and the tower rises. The tower rises. And in the rising of the tower is the birth of the flame child.